Welcome, everybody, to Garnet and Old. No inside info, no contacts, no problem. Just after a storm, again, blows through Florida, and I know a lot of folks out there are feeling it, and they are trying to clean up. I know Ryan specifically. Ryan will not be here tonight, as far as I know. Ryan is living in the Tampa area. He did get out of Dodge and spent some time with some family while the storm was coming through. But he did go back to his house today, and there was some damage in the yard and things like that. Not so sure about any damage to the house itself, but our prayers, our thoughts and prayers are with everyone that's dealing with it, whether it's, physical, monetarily, or, a lot of people are just have anxiety about it. And I don't blame them for that, especially on the west coast of Florida. It's like enough is enough. So, but maybe we can take some of your mind off of that a little bit and talk about the Noles and some college football in general. So I just remind everybody, this is Garnet Old, no inside info, no contacts, no problem, live from the Captain Black's Fishing Studios. Captain Black, also notorious for being the crazy hair winner at Doe Campbell a few weeks ago. But if you're looking for some offshore fishing in the Panama City Beach area, that's where you should go. You should call him up. You should say, Captain Black, take me to the best spots so I can do some fishing. And so that's where you should go. We do have a special treat this evening, and it's something that I have been trying to get around to doing this season, but because of the way this season started, there wasn't a lot of opportunity to talk about whether decisions were good decisions or bad decisions. Most of the time, they were just bad decisions. So we've got a special guest tonight, going to co-host a show, not just his own segment. He's going to co-host a show with me tonight. We've got Parker Rawlin here, and let's go ahead, and I put together this thing in anticipation to lead him in. So everybody enjoy. Everybody, welcome Parker to the show. Welcome, Parker. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. Great job on the animation and the work on that. I mean, look out, DreamWorks and Pixar. Here comes VC Noles Studios.
That's
I remember
right.
when you sent me. I remember when you sent me that right before the Ireland trip, back when everyone was happy and excited for the season. And I mean, I knew you were looking forward to using it. It turned out great. So great job with that.
There's a couple things that you do not want to let me get a hold of. Canva would be one of them. I can do some nasty work with the Canva thing. But welcome to the show, Parker. Can you let everybody know as much as you can, like what it is that you do and who you are affiliated with? And so everybody knows that when we talk about these things, we're just not dreaming this stuff up. This is coming from a place of professionalism and intellect.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to give the short version of it. Going back to college, one of my last years of college, I got involved with a football analytics company called Championship Analytics. Um, be more than willing to give out their information. You can look up their website, been plenty of articles, ESPN, Sports Illustrated articles involving them and interviews with their guys. But I got involved with them, I think, 4 years ago. This is my fourth season working with them as a game analyst. So my job on the weekend is to use the game books that the clients get sent and review their decisions from the game, whether that be fourth downs. I mean, of course, that's kind of a lot of what analytics seems to get attention for. Timeouts go into that. 2-point scenarios, obviously, anywhere from onside kicks to penalty decisions to anything you can think of. I'll probably review it for the team, and I'll touch on that in their post game report. So I've done that for the last 4 years, and this season I signed on with Pro Football Focus to be one of their data collectors, and I've done some work with them as well.
That's fantastic. So all this stuff that, normal people like me, we're in the middle of a game and, whether it was Jimbo back in the day or Willie or now Mike Norvell, making decisions, and we all throw our hands up and like, why are you doing this? Why are you making this decision? We have it from a fan perspective, but you get to you take the fan hat off and just go strictly from the number side, right?
Yep, absolutely. I think I've been doing that. I mean, even before I started with them, because I kind of been in contact with them back when I was in my younger years of college. So I got to watch Florida State football and I guess football in general from like the analytics perspective back when Taggart was still here, and that continued into Norvell. And I was glad to see objectively better decisions were made with the current staff, and I don't have a problem saying that. But I definitely will not be able to give out like certain clients. I know I've shared that with you before. So if
Right.
someone comes in, they're like, "So what did you tell this team about this?" So I mean, I can't really give out certain teams. I mean, of course, all of that is proprietary, so can't really get into that. But I can definitely give my objective thoughts on teams and situations, specifically Florida State, just from my point of view, from my experience, and give my 2 cents on what I think I would have recommended as a post game analyst from my perspective.
Got it. I know there have been times where, we always tell people, come to lot 12, hang out with us. And there have been times where you have been there, and there have been times where you have not, because sometimes your Saturdays are completely booked. Like your fandom has to take a back seat because of the numbers that you have to acquire.
Unfortunately, yep, and that was the case last weekend. I was planning to go to the Clemson game. Try to go to every game I can, but got assigned a lot of games last Saturday, so wasn't able to make it.
Well, let's get right to it then. Let's talk about whether with the Clemson game, and since we've got a bye week, right? So there's not a game this week to talk about, to build up, or to lament, maybe is the right word. Let's look in the past and talk about this past game. Parker was on the ball enough to put together a quick graphic on all the things that happened that he took track of or made note of. And so we're going to talk through each one of these things, and I'm going to talk about the fan perspective from me and what I was angry about. And you can talk me down off the ledge and say, no, that was the right call. He should have done that. And by the way, if you are in the chat watching right now, if you could, let me know if the graphic needs to be larger, or because I can do that on the fly if I need to. So let's talk through, or where do you want to start? You want to start with the third and fourth down?
I'm good with starting anywhere. I mean, not really everything needs to be touched on. Some of these were probably obvious. I know you probably want to head straight to the timeout. I'm fine with that. But yeah, the reason, I mean, I would include Clemson's third and fourth down sequences in here too, but they really didn't have any contentious ones. When they got in the red zone, they kind of got backed up behind the chains. So they had a lot of clear field goal scenarios, and that's kind of where Dabo leans anyway. So even if they were close, he's going to probably tend to, quotation marks, take the points and trust his kicker, who he says had a great game, but unfortunately kept this game within reach for a long time.
I'm going to try to make this a little bigger. I'm getting some feedback here to make this bigger. Just understand that it's going to cover some of the graphics, but hopefully that's okay with everybody. So you can see it a little bit bigger there. So let's start with the third and fourth down then. There's a lot of green there, and a lot of green tells me that green is good, which means it looks like, as far as an analytics perspective, Coach Norvell made the right decisions in terms of these third and fourth downs.
Yeah, I wouldn't say any of these were kind of tough or really close. I mean, these were kind of very clearly like within what CAI would have recommended as a go range. That's kind of what we call it. We'd say they have a go at something like 9 or less, and anything below the 9 yards, they're expected to go for it. Beyond that, it's kind of recommended to be a kick, and there's a little bit of wiggle room in that top echelon of that go range. So, I mean, they have a little more flexibility. It's kind of more up to the coach. But yeah, if I were to start here, I think the one that got a little more attention was the 4th and 15 on Florida State's 20 late in the fourth quarter. I feel like this was kind of this was a tough situation because the team's down by 2 scores. But the issue, I mean, there's obviously an extended go range. It's pretty big. I mean, you would normally not go for it on like 4th and 9, 4th and 5 or something from your own 20, but the situation kind of called for a bigger go range. The issue was that they just really were not in a spot that the odds called for a go in this situation. It's where, I mean, their odds were so low of converting on 4th and 15 that they were in a better spot to just punt with Mastromano, who everyone knows is going to probably give them the best value of a punt when he's on the field. The net yards are going to be as good as possible, even with great Clemson returners, who I think had a couple of big plays in the return game, actually. But that was just the better play that I think CAI would have recommended. I definitely would have recommended it. And that's a decision they made on that one. I don't
Let me
think
tell you, before you go on, I got a text from Ryan when we punted there. Mm-hmm. And Ryan wears the heart on the sleeve. Ryan was not a happy man when we punted there, mainly because you're losing the game anyway. You're down by 2 scores, and you're to me and to him too. It felt like there was just a give up. We're just giving up.
Right. I would kind of push back on that idea because there was still 6 minutes left. Even if Florida State didn't call any timeouts, it's possible they get the ball back with, let's see, 1:22 minutes, about 2:20. So they would have gotten it with about 3:15 to 3:20 on the clock if they got a 3 and out. Obviously, they didn't. Phil Maffa hits a big run. I think that was the situation. He hit a big run right up the middle. Florida State had no one covering either A gap, and they just busted up straight through for like 60 yards. Ended up forcing Clemson to a field goal, but by then they go down by 16, and that's a really narrow path to navigate to win, because you have to get 2 2-point conversions. And like I will tell teams all the time, you can't consider an 8-point game a certain 1-score game, and you can't consider a 16-point game a certain 2-score game. I mean, you're kind of like splitting hairs on that, trying to.
Right.
I mean, you need too much to go in your favor. Right.
Yeah. I got you. All right. So so Ryan was really angry at that point. And I was not happy either, but he definitely let me know about it. What else from the third and fourth downs?
Let's see. The last one's an always go, so that really I didn't even need to touch on here. See, the third quarter. Yeah, that down 16 in the third quarter, I mean, that's actually not in field goal range, but still, it's very clear. I mean, that one, I probably would have recommended to go out to like 6 or 7 yards, so that one's easy. They did a good job of sequencing these plays. That's a topic I'll talk about a lot, probably more than others that work for the company, because I feel like it's not used as much. And sequencing your plays is where you're not in range to go for it on the third down, but you treat the third down as like a second down. You're treating it as a way to get
Absolutely.
in range for a fourth down. I know a lot of Florida State fans have complained about that, really nailed the why are we running the ball on third down? And of course, it'll get stuffed and they have to punt because they made no progress on third down. And obviously, that's not the intent to lose yardage, but the goal is
Right.
to gain something to put yourself in a better position to go for it
A
on
better
fourth down.
spot.
And
Yeah.
I think Norvell does a really good job of balancing that. I mean, he doesn't do it every single time. So it's not like teams can just say, all right, they're running the ball here. I mean, he mixes it up a good bit, like you can see on the fourth quarter, like 5:57 that we already touched on. I mean, I think Brock had to throw the ball away on 3rd and 15. So they were looking for like a downfield shot, didn't get anything. So they had to punt. So, I
Hmm.
mean, it's definitely something they mix in well. But yeah, I think that's really all I can make of the third and fourth down sequences. I'd give a
Okay.
lot of credit to Brock late in the game on one of those crazy fourth down conversions where he had to make so many people miss, and then he's like dying at the end of the play, but it's like the
Right.
last minute, so he has to get up again.
Yeah. So your notes there, go make. They made those. Is that your
Yeah,
verbiage there? Okay.
yeah,
So yeah. So green is good. I'm a big fan of green as a color to let us know things are going in a good way, even though the end result of the game was not. Uh, just to kind of put a wrap on the third and fourth down. Um, the coaching staff is making the right decisions on these scenarios. I disagree with the punt, but I don't make $10 million a year. Um, so they're making the right calls. We're just not good enough to capitalize on the right calls being made. Hence, just like you said, you treat third down as a way to get closer on the fourth down, and we're just not able to get any running yards at all, apparently. So, all right, well, cool. If anybody has any comments in the chat, feel free to pop them in there. If you have a question for Parker about anything here, I will try to produce and get those things up on the screen. Let's go to point after touchdown, 2-point scenarios. Let's talk about that one. That's probably a real brief one to talk about.
yeah, absolutely. They've been in, I guess, more controversial scenarios in other games this year with the 2-point decisions, but I mean, this one was, I guess, pretty obvious for everyone. I mean, you're down 10. You kick the extra point, you're really not getting much value out of being able to take the lead with a touchdown and a field goal, but that doesn't outweigh the possibility of this potentially being a one-score game if they got the two here and on the potential next touchdown, which would tie the game. And with, I mean, this little time left in the game, that's kind of a risk you have to take, just to give yourself the pathway of tying the game with a touchdown and going to likely overtime.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this was obvious to go for two here. So I had no problem with that. The fact that we didn't convert, it's just kind of the kind of way it goes, and kind of the way it goes this season for the Noles. Let's go to timeouts, because that's the one that really, if you talk about Ryan being angry about the punt, this is an area where I just about lost my mind. And everyone around me knew that I about lost my mind. When I'm at a game, I sometimes have a hard time keeping what I'm thinking in my head inside my head. It's never vulgar. It's never vulgar, and it's never pointedly abusive. But it is logical, and it's loud. So let's talk about these. Let's talk about the first one first.
Yeah, I mean, these early half timeouts are very quick to cover. In general, I would recommend that teams save their timeouts, preserve their timeouts for the last few minutes of the half in critical time sensitive situations. And on a situation like this, where you're going to punt anyway, and you're only saving 5 yards for avoiding a delay of game, it's really tough to vouch for that. I'm not pointing thumbs all the way down because, I mean, it's understandable. I mean, you're about to punt for field position anyway. You're saving 5 yards, and it's the first half. So, I mean, this isn't where the game is going to be decided in most contests. But you do kind of want to save these for the last 2 minutes, and if at all possible, you want to save them. But yeah, right after this, Clemson drove right down the field for a touchdown, so it didn't end up working out, unfortunately.
Right. The only problem it's okay for me that they called the timeout there if the reason they called it wasn't so much necessarily about the clock coming down. It was, but maybe they weren't so sure about the alignment too, because you don't want somebody, breaking free.
Right.
So I hate to burn a timeout that early in the game. But Clemson decided to burn some early as well, it looks like. Oh no, that was 49. Is that 9:49 or 49 seconds?
49 seconds. That was
Okay, got it.
late in the game, but these are also all FSU timeouts. I didn't want to talk about Clemson. We don't really care about what they did. They got
Yeah,
their own problems and things that are working for them. So I was just going to use Florida State's for
yeah,
this
that's
graph.
fine. So let's talk about the one the timeout at the end of the half that we
Yeah,
took.
the one that you and Ryan were upset about, that
I was
third and
very upset about
13.
that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll give credit to you. If you complained about it right when they called a timeout, then you are definitely justified in complaining about it after too, because you knew at the time you didn't like it and it didn't work out that way. From an analytics perspective, this really wasn't controversial. It wasn't really up in the air. If Florida State was up like Clemson was up, if the score was reversed and it was 20-6 for Florida State, then you can kind of make a decent argument that you're fine letting Clemson take the game into the half because you already have a 14-point lead. The issue that lies here is that there's not a good reason for Florida State to be content down by 2 scores going into the second half, even if they do get the ball first. I mean, it's third and 13. I mean, I don't remember what Clemson's odds were converting this, but I mean, they had just gotten a tackle for loss. I don't remember who got that. It could have been Peyton blowing the play up, but it was a incomplete pass on first down, then tackle for loss on second down. So Florida State didn't have to burn a timeout before this. They used it here, which I would have supported. CAI, I think, would have supported. I think this timeout would have been called anywhere outside of 3rd and 5. If it were 3rd and medium or at all like that, then this timeout needs to be called because the odds are in your favor to get the stop on defense. I understand the thought is this is Florida State's defense. So I get what you're saying, but you kind of have to make decisions outside of, like, I guess momentum, what people would call it, outside of past results, because you want to make decisions that give you the best opportunity, best chance to win. If you don't
Yeah,
call a timeout here, I would say that you're kind of playing against the spread instead of playing for the win.
yeah,
So, as someone who, like Norvell, I would guess, wants to win every week, no matter what, even if we are 1-6, it doesn't really matter. I would agree that we should play for the win. So I supported the timeout, but I think you're absolute. I think, yeah, you definitely have a good case for disagreeing with the timeout, especially with how it played out. I mean, I wasn't
yeah,
expecting them to convert on 3rd and 13. I wasn't expecting Kevin Knowles to play 2 inside and not to the boundary when he's got the outside hook, and they're just going to throw a ball pretty no contest at all. And they did that a couple of times, being able to just lob the ball over the outside hook zone that just wasn't played wide enough. And I get that for Kevin Knowles too, because on the previous drive, I think Edwin Joseph had just missed an interception up the seam. And so he was kind of cheating towards that side. I know it was in doubles. There was a 2-by-2 receiver set. So he's kind of scared, didn't really want to give up that inside play. And what do you know? It goes to the
mhm.
outside. It's kind of hard to blame him for that, but still, it's really tough for that to happen in that situation. But
I
yeah,
had, I first guessed it. I understand why Norvell called the timeout. And in past history, just knowing him for the 5 years that we've had him as a coach, I know that he's going to do that. He is consistent about that, which I can appreciate. Like it wasn't a shock. I just, as knowing what we have showed and not shown, our ability to not stop a team, tacking another 3 points at minimum. in my heart of hearts, I kind of thought that was a done deal. Like they were going to tack on another 3 points, and that was going to be the end of it. So anyway, that was the one that got me riled up.
Yeah, I remember you.
Chat about.
I just wanted to touch on that timeout too. I remember he got asked about it in the press conference after. I know there was I guess uncomfortability with how he answered the question.
Mhm.
Personally, I didn't see it that way, but if so many people thought of it that way, then it would be wrong to say that it's nothing. I'm sure he was frustrated and gave the reporter, whoever asked him, some kind of attitude. But um, yeah, I guess I'm more empathetic. I wouldn't really hold it against him right after a loss when he's getting bombarded with all these questions doubting him. I don't know if he was kind of jerky like that and kind of throwing it back in his face. Only thing I would say is I hope either all of us or none of us are judged by our actions in our weakest moments.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
To quote
I'm,
Jason
I'm
Sudeikis.
I'm pretty I'm a pretty accommodating person myself, and live and let live. You see a trajectory there, and it worries me. It worries me because I do enjoy him as the coach, and he's got some things to fix for sure, a lot of things to fix. But you're never going to move things in a positive direction dealing with people that write the stories,
Right.
like that have constant ear to the ground and constant connection with the people that are the fans. So I get it though. And I did mention it on the last show that or on the post game show. I think that it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, the way he reacted to that. Any of the other ones here in the timeouts that you think require some deep dive?
No, I could just go through them quickly. I mean, the timeout at the end of the first half to ice the kicker.
Yeah,
I mean, whatever. I mean, you can't take the timeout with you into the
right.
second half. Why not ice it? The one at the beginning of the fourth quarter was kind of tough with 10:52 remaining. You're likely going to be trailing late in the game. It's going to be tough to validate a timeout in an early down situation, even if it is just outside the red zone. That's kind of tough to take right there when you're probably going to need them later. I mean, the next two are used
Yes.
correctly, but that was a tough timeout to lose. But I mean, I don't think it cost them the game. I mean, they still lost by a couple scores, but yeah, I
Right.
think that's all from those.
Okay. Well, excellent. If anybody in the chat has a question about the timeouts, feel free to pop a question in there. And while we're at it, let's just talk about how you can support the show in general. I've kind of covered it up there on the graphic, but obviously the easiest thing you can do, the cheapest thing you can do is go like the show on YouTube. And it looks like we've got 19 people watching on YouTube. We have 53 people watching on the Garnet and Old Twitter account. You 53 people that are watching on the Twitter account, just pop on over to YouTube real quick, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button, then go right back over to X. It's very helpful for our show. And of course, subscribing to the show, sharing the link out whenever we have a show. And then if you want to join, if you want to become a member, that's on YouTube as well. I'm going to try to give out a few memberships here in a little bit. So I try to do that a couple times a month. So stick around, but you got to be on YouTube to get those. So make sure if you want a free membership for a month, you go on over to YouTube and watch there, because we're going to try to give away some memberships here in a little bit. Let's see. We got a comment here. Actually, got a couple funny ones here. Mahi Griller just arrived. This was a little bit ago, about 10 minutes ago. He showed up, just arrived, and then he said, "I was told there would be no math." And when Parker's on, there's going to be math, but it's football math. So at least it's something that we don't get tested on like the coaches do. We've got a fire a coach comment. Somebody doesn't like Fuller. We got that on there. And then I got a comment here from Jeremy Ivins. Jeremy, thank you, by the way, Jeremy, again for co-hosting the show with me a week or so ago. We saw this with Jimbo in the media, and Norvell gave me a flashback to that after the Clemson game. Guaranteed money can make that happen, I guess. Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of talking about kind of the attitude we got from Coach Norvell a little bit during the press conference. All right. Let's switch gears for you now from your analytic brain to your PFF guy brain. So let's talk about well, where do you want to go? You want to go team efficiency or do you want to go player grades?
We can start with the player grades. I just touched on two. I feel like these were the most noteworthy. I think there was an article posted from 247 about Brock Glenn and his grade. This was the highest grade for a quarterback this year, the highest passing rating for a team for Florida State this year. And you don't see many games in the 80s in general. So this was a pretty good game from Brock Glenn and in his first start too against one of the best defenses. So, I mean, if you're looking to take away something positive from the game, I think that's where you look.
Agreed. I think the last highest score was Jordan Travis against Duke last year. Was the next highest one. Did this score go down? Because I originally thought it was 83 and a half. Did it get recalculated?
Yeah, it did get recalculated and bumped down a little bit. The next one, Landon Thomas, I put up there because that was the highest grade for a freshman tight end in the country this week. And I think that just goes towards what Florida State has been trending to the last couple of weeks in that youth movement. And I think you saw it in that game. I think Amari Williams was pretty good too, which is what you like to see when your other tight ends are kind of struggling a little bit.
Yeah, they were all on the graphic that I produced for the show today, and we'll talk a little bit more about the youth movement here in a little bit. But yeah, very excited about that, and I was uplifted by what I saw from Brock Glenn. I don't like losing, Parker, and you and I have had chats in the past about as you were growing up. And losses would come and how it would wreck the family trip back to Atlanta.
Yes.
I have similar stories about that. And, people, losing, basically you always hurt the ones you love kind of thing, right? When you're angry. So I don't like to lose. It bothers me, even at my ripe old age. But I also understand that we're not a very good team, and seeing Brock Glenn play as well as he did and having it bear out in the score makes me feel pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, there's a famous quote I've heard a lot. I mean, I've heard coaches say it's not about the wins and losses. It's about making these players and people around the team the best versions of themselves on and off the field. And that's great. It's a great philosophy for running a team, but for the fans, that's not very applicable. And I get that, but yeah, it's definitely tough to take a positive attitude away from this record. It's at least a little bit about the wins and losses.
Yeah. Team efficiency. I see a lot of red, a lot of yellow. I know that's not good. So let's talk through these real quick.
Sure. These are metrics that I like to relay to my clients for the teams that I work on for CAI. On the weekends, I feel like these are the best representation of how the team performed offensively, and if you look at the other team, how your defense performed. So for Florida State, the DSSR is the downset success rate or downset conversion rate, depending on who you're asking. It's a measure of how often your set of downs resulted in a first down or a score. For the defense, you want that to be as low as possible. Obviously, for the offense, you want that to be high. Neither of these teams did that very well in this game. Florida State was a little below the average. This was actually they would be the 81st team out of 100 something FBS teams this last week, and Clemson placed 50th out of 100 something teams. So neither team was really great, but Clemson is just a little better. I guess the score reflected that as well.
Yeah, if you think about the game, I feel like Brock played well enough that the game could have been in doubt late in the game with just a couple of things going a little better. Um, so, the fact that Clemson struggled as well allowed us to, for the game possibly could have been in doubt. So, um, yeah, again, I think we have a little bit of an upward trajectory. And I noticed here, I'll put a quick comment in here from Tomcat. He says he gave us hope. Yes, Brock Glenn gave us hope, right? There's hope that that the offense can be a little more productive. And we have some young guys in there that can catch the ball as well, it seems like. So that's really great too. Tomcat also wants to know, how did Bama grade out?
Yeah, that was a tough one last week for them. Definitely wouldn't expect many players in the 80s for them unless it's Ryan Williams. Yeah, they had a lot of problems last week. That was rough.
Um, the goalpost in the lake or in the river or whatever, and the helicopter video of that was fantastic. So I always like an upset. I prefer it when it's not my team. All right, I think we're good here.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some other topics. But thank you, Parker, for delivering all of that and having the knowledge to go with it, behind it. If you guys like that segment, we went a little longer this time because we haven't been able to get Parker on this season. But if you like that segment and deep dive a little bit into the numbers and whether things are whether decisions are being made the right way, let us know in the chat. Let us know if you enjoyed that. All right, let's talk about youth movement. Now you're talking as a fan, Parker.
Okay.
All right. Now you're talking as a fan. Is there anything about what we witnessed at the last game, that caused you to be a little frustrated, as far as like seeing the younger guys? I'm kind of
Um,
leading you here.
you asking like if I was frustrated about who was in the game, or if
No,
I had
I'll just cut right to the chase. Were you frustrated that it took as long as it did to have some talent on the field and for it to, show?
I would imagine most people would be frustrated by that. I think the staff takes pride in their ability to evaluate players. I don't like to talk negatively too much, so I'll try to do my best about not doing that right now. But yeah, there was definitely a difference in performance in this game compared to last games with different players on the field.
And, whether it's overall talent, which it could be for some of them, whether it's chemistry, could be, right? Whether it's these guys just being so young that they don't have the weight of anxiety and on their shoulders like maybe the older guys do, like the pressure of it all, just playing free. It doesn't matter what the reasons are to me. It was working. So you're right. The coaches have a high opinion of their ability to, um, you know, look at players and be able to know who's going to perform in a certain way, and evaluate from week to week. But they also have to understand that they could have been wrong a little bit this season.
Yeah, I would have liked to see a little more split in snaps from the get go. Um, I don't think it was necessary to maybe outright bench players or go straight to or straight across the depth chart, but at least giving a higher split on the snaps. I think that's what a lot of teams in college football do anyway. I mean, it's not the NFL. You don't have guys signed to play a certain position in a certain amount of snaps. I think I think it's a little different. Everyone's kind of in the same position, maybe not with NIL in recent years. So maybe that argument doesn't work as well anymore. But yeah, I mean, I guess my main takeaway is that I would just have liked to see a little more split snaps sooner.
Yeah, I mean, just, feathering them in. And I know, you're losing games, so you don't feel like you can put the game in further jeopardy by having a younger player in it. But there wasn't any kind of consistency anyway. So it's easy for us to say we're not the ones making the decisions. Um, but there is an evaluation that I hope that they're doing. Let's just say that. And I know they can't come out and say, you know, it's ridiculous that, a fifth year or sixth year person on our team can't snap the ball. It's ridiculous. Like, they're not going to say those words because they're not going to throw their players under the bus. But there are ways to make changes without, cutting someone off at the knees. So I'm just hoping that they've seen a little bit of light there. I mean, what do you make of the injury to DJU?
Um, I was watching that SMU game and it did not seem like he got injured on the last play of that drive that ended up being a pick six, which is why I kind of thought it was more performance related than injury related, and I gave Norvell the benefit of the doubt. I will
Hmm.
say, in addition to the quarterback topic, I was surprised that they didn't take a quarterback by committee approach. I understand the argument if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback, but I feel like that was just something they should have at least had on the table, something they should have considered. I mean, Oregon State did it last year with DJ, and they did pretty well. That's kind of what I expected going into the season. If anything went wrong, which it did, but that's all I would have added on to the quarterback talk.
Okay. And then, of course, DJ Lundy being out for the rest of the season as well. I don't know. We obviously don't know what the injury is for that, but um, suffice it to say that it makes it easier for the coaches to put in some younger players more often. When the older players can't play for whatever reason. So um, maybe they're built-in excuses on why they're going to play the younger players. Who knows? We're not in the locker room. We're not in the training room. Um, and I don't like to see anybody get hurt. But I would like to see more of Blake Nicholson,
Justin
uh,
Cryer.
and Justin Cryer and Juice. And I'd love to see more of those guys. So they don't have a choice now. They got to play them more. So we are going to give away 5 memberships here on YouTube. So if you would like a YouTube membership to Garnet and Old, and you're not watching on YouTube right now, get over there right now and watch on YouTube right now. I'm going to click this button in, let's say, 2 minutes. I'll give you 2 minutes to get over there. And we're going to give away 5 1-month memberships to Garnet and Old. What does that get you? That gets you members only content that Ryan and I do twice a month, direct direct follows on social media, direct access to us. We haven't really gotten real involved with the Discord channel. We kind of launched it, or the Discord server, but with the way the team has been going, there hasn't been a lot of chatter there. So But that would be another place as well. Someone asked about Ryan, by the way. Ryan is fine. He lives in Tampa, and so when he came back from evacuating, he found some things he needed to take care of at the house. So that's what he is doing this evening. So I'll give you one more minute here to get over to YouTube so we can give away these memberships. All right. Any other young players, Parker, that you're excited to see more of? I think I lost your audio.
Sorry about that. I would say Micah Danzy outside of some of the drops. They kind of flexed him. They had him at running back and receiver a little bit. Looked pretty quick, had some good juice. Trying to think of, I would like to see more of Lewayne, McCoy, and Gibson from the receiver group. I would just like to see, I guess, more bodies there, just to see what people can do if they can bring the ball in. Defensively, they've started mixing up the secondary package a lot. So they've had Q in there a good bit. I think he might have had the highest graded defensive grade this season in that Cal game. When he put their starting receiver in a seatbelt for a drive or two, that was pretty good.
Right. Right.
Let's see, 33, blanking on the name. Rawls, I think.
Jabril Rawls.
Yep. I mean, they've just started mixing it up a lot, and I like to see that. One thing I don't like to see, that I didn't like to see at the beginning of the year, and I'm still not coming around on it, is the 3 linebacker sets. To be as respectful as possible, I don't know if you want to increase the amount of players at your worst position on the field. I don't know if that solves it or compounds the problem. So that's one area I'm a little doubtful with, especially when Clemson had some success in it in the last game. But I mean, they had success against every personnel group. So, I mean, I don't think it's fair to just rag on one position group when not a lot of them were doing great in the first place.
Right. Someone put in Edwin Joseph in the chat here. Yep. Edwin Joseph. Gonna give away these memberships right now. So if you're on YouTube, get ready. Here they come. You got to grab them while they're hot. There's only 5 of them. Once you grab them, they're gone. I've had a couple people ask me how I could possibly give them memberships directly to people, and I can't. It's just whoever's quickest. It's like, what is the Jeopardy button? You got to buzz in. So 5 are gone. Almighty Finn. Everything is good here with me. Jacksonville had, we had quite a bit of wind and rain, but actually Helene was worse for us. So we're good here. My power didn't even go out, but I know a lot of people's did. Susan Bajour gifted a membership. Parker Rawlin got a membership. Look at you, Parker.
I ain't press anything. I don't know whatever this software is. I like it as a guest, but I mean, I don't have it on my phone. I just got it by sitting here.
Riz P got a membership. Riz P is one of my good buddies. He is a Miami Hurricane fan, and KH gifted a membership. So you guys enjoy that for a month, and if you want to continue on, feel free to do so after that. All right. Recruiting. Let's talk recruiting. We lost another recruit today. Who is surprised? Raise your hand if you are surprised that we lost another recruit today. Everybody's hand should not be going up. Dalen McCutcheon flipped from Florida State to Texas today. I think it was going to be hard to hold on to him anyway, but it was kind of a done deal. Like the wide receiver core, we were also excited about, or the wide receiver group, we were also excited about when they committed. And then you see what's happened this season. I'm not shocked by this. Parker, I know you don't necessarily follow recruiting a ton, but is there anything that you want to talk about, or particular recruits that that you think may be waiting in the wings to come on?
Nope. I do not have much intel on that. I don't put much effort into learning about the recruits until it is the third week of December and whenever the second signing day normally is. But um, I think it would be expected when you have a season like this to lose recruits. So I wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't give me a blow like every time I heard something like that. I mean, I feel like when you have the results like this, that's what's to be expected, and it's not December right now. I mean, you have another 2 months to recruit, so I would not be burning the house down or anything if I heard about that.
No, this is, there are people that follow it religiously. I'm not one of those people, but I followed enough to know the names, and I followed enough to know the trends of where people might be going. But I'm not going to live and die by it, mainly because of this, right? And you know, once you started seeing additional offers go out to wide receivers in the last month or so, the writing was on the wall that the people we had, they had already kind of told the coaches probably, or the coaches knew that they were not going to be long for this class. So if you want to follow recruiting a little bit more, you know, look at who and when offers go out. Look at to who they go and when they go. You're not seeing any wide receiver offers go out for a little while, since the summer, really. And then all of a sudden we got 2 or 3 of them that went out. That should tell you, since it's like, there's no crystal ball needed, right? They're trying to backfill people that are leaving the class. Could they come back to the class? Sure. But you would need to have quite the turnaround here. And it's not just that the team is losing, in my opinion. You can lose games. It's the way they look. And it's the way specifically the wide receivers have looked. Not being able to hold on to the ball across the board. If you were a blue chip recruit and you were trying to, make it to the league, make big time money, and you want to get better as a player, would you look at Florida State right now and honestly and logically say, that's the place for me? It's tough, man. It's tough. And, they're not fans like we are. It's like if I was ever recruited, Florida State would be it. I wouldn't even listen to any other coaches, but that's not the way they are. So, yeah, we do need some upsets. I think if we get a couple upsets going into the back half of the season, I think you might see a little bit of turnaround in the momentum thing with that. But again, till December happens, there's really not much to concern yourself with. The more concerning thing to me is the way this staff recruits in general, not necessarily the specific recruits. So that's a topic for another show. But we're going to close out here, Park. We're going to talk about all the games this weekend. So Florida State does not have a game this weekend. We are on a bye. You got to thank the heavens for the small things. We are on a bye this week. We'll be playing at Duke next Friday, by the way. Garnet Old will be at Fishweir Brewing Company in Jacksonville, Florida next Friday for a live show event at Fishweir. But let's talk about the games. What do you got your eye on?
I think the first one in the day that's kind of interesting would be that Texas-Oklahoma game. Oklahoma's lone loss was the close one to Tennessee. Texas, obviously, number 1 team in the country, and it's the Red River rivalry. I mean, it's always kind of a big game. Even last year, that was kind of a playoff indicator, I guess. Had a big, or maybe actually not so, since Oklahoma won, and then it didn't matter at all.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think Texas is still with Manning for that game, if I'm not mistaken. I think Ewers is still out, so it'll still be Manning for a couple of games. Um, and Oklahoma's looked good outside of that Tennessee game. I mean, Tennessee was just tough that game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Oklahoma on that. Actually, as far as I'm concerned, if Florida State is going to do what it's doing, I want chaos. I want chaos across the board. I want all fan bases to enjoy a little bit of what we've been enjoying. So, so I'll go Oklahoma on that. What are your thoughts on that one then?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Oklahoma win. I'm kind of skeptical of all of the Arch Manning hype.
Mhm.
I just don't think it's been. I don't think he's been that great. I feel like it's been a little gassed up because of the teams he's played. So I think it'll be at least interesting to see how he plays against Oklahoma in Venables. But yeah, I think I'll go with Texas, but expecting it to be close. Definitely taking the Oklahoma side of the spread.
All right, awesome. What about Florida, Tennessee? Let's talk about that one. I think Florida is, first of all, they beat UCF last week, which, you know, I probably would have predicted that on any normal year, but this year I thought UCF might have gotten them, but they were able to come out of that. I don't think they have anything that can keep Tennessee at bay, so I think Tennessee is going to win that game.
I do too. I think I was surprised to see Florida win last week. Yeah, I'd definitely say ordinarily I would predict Florida to win in any other year, but I thought UCF had a good team. I mean, they do have a good team, but um, yeah, Florida played well that game. I think they've been going by a quarterback by committee approach recently. Um, but yeah, Tennessee just coming off a loss, and I think that quarterback is really good, Ayamaleava. I think he's going to be pretty good. So I think that will probably not be close.
And again, if the rivals can lose a game every now and then, that would do my Knoll heart very well. Miami just apparently has the ACC refs in their pocket this season. That was targeting in every sense of the word, and here we are. So
In Raj's defense, they still did have to go like 90 something yards on the last drive, and they were
and they
losing by a lot, so they deserve some credit. But
oh
yeah,
yeah, I mean I give them credit.
It's tough to watch um, in those late game situations where the refs are looking in that little camera for like 5 minutes, and you're like, we know what you're gonna do. Just come on, just come on.
Yep. Um, the other one, last week or the week before, it was not that was egregious just because they called it a touchdown and then they reversed it, and I didn't think there was anything that could confirm that. So that was more of a man, whatever. Probably wasn't a touchdown to begin with, but that's what they called.
Yeah.
But the targeting was targeting. It's ridiculous. Oregon, Ohio State.
Ooh, yeah, I think that's my favorite matchup from the weekend. I mean, I know you probably haven't gone into the video game as much, but I've gone through several dynasties, and it it's the most fun game I think in the first year you play Dynasty. That game, especially at Oregon. I mean, that's not a matchup you normally see, and that's two really good teams. So I'll be excited to watch that one. Um, I think Ohio State might be the best team in the country, so I'm kind of riding them this year, and I expect them to win that
Yeah,
game.
yeah, that's going to be a great game. Looking forward to that one. Another top 25 matchup. Ole Miss, LSU.
Yeah,
I'm not
LSU with
sure about
that.
that one. Probably
Yeah,
Ole Miss.
LSU had that tough loss at the beginning of the year to USC out in Vegas. Um, Ole Miss had that rough loss. Forget. Um, who it was to, like Kentucky, I think, and it was close.
Yeah.
But I mean, even Kentucky is kind of an underrated team this year. So I mean, I'm not of the opinion that every SEC game is tough, but yeah, I think I'm always kind of an Ole Miss fan. I really like Kiffin. I think I'm gonna go with them for that one.
Excellent. Wow, we got 92 people watching on the Garnet and Old Twitter account. That's great. Great job, everybody. We're going to close this show out now. And Parker, I want to thank you for joining the show tonight. I appreciate it. For everybody that's tuning in, a little bit late, Ryan just had some damage at the house from the storm, so he was taking care of that this evening. For everyone else that is dealing with the effects of the storm, Ryan and I and Parker just send you our best. Hopefully, things can get back to semi-normal as soon as they can. But this weekend, I will be going to Georgia Southern to hang out with my daughter and going to the Georgia Southern game. And they're playing pretty well this season, so hopefully I'll get some good football this weekend. So that's what I'll be doing. Yeah, so it's a great show tonight. I appreciate it. Parker, thanks for coming on. We'll get through these banners here real quick. Screw ESPN eternally till the ends of time. And of course, send Chiefs all the damn time. Their new uniforms look great this past weekend. Hopefully everybody got a chance to see those. This has been Garnet and Old. No inside info, no contacts, no problem. See everybody next week.